So one of the things students will want to do is to mask their voice. Not all students, most students I find get very anxious about having their voice once they've recorded it and putting it in. Recording it is one issue, and then actually putting it into the piece and having other people listen to it is another issue. So I've got a recording here of my voice. Breeds. Let me solo that for you. Breeds. Yeah, and I've done a little bit of processing already. First thing I always do is put the reverb in, and it always sounds more than you might otherwise have it when you listen to it in the mix as opposed to out of the mix. A lot of producers don't listen to anything being processed unless it's in the mix so they could hear how it sits. I like to do both. Breeds. Yeah! Etc. So let me just mute some of this stuff here. So let's talk about how to do that and accomplish that pitch shifting. So I'll go to the plug-in windows here in GarageBand, and what I'm going to be looking for is actually pitch shifter. Vocal transformer is something you can explore. It does some very bizarre sounds, and you can do very extreme things with vocal transformer. I'm going to use the pitch shifter here. And the very first thing is this is in semitones, so each one represents a half step. So one half step is a lot. So let's hear my voice. I'll solo it again. Breeds. So you'll hear the mix, 25% of the dry and the wet and like that. And so I can have breeds. Of course, that's none of the pitch shifter in there. It's 0 on the wet mix and 100% of the wet mix here.
Breeds.
So I sound like a chipmunk. So I don't want that. So we're going to zero this out. And the shortcut on a Macintosh computer, by the way, is to hold down the Alt-Option key and then click on the parameter. It'll zero it out. Click here. It sends it to 50 here. So here's semitones. Breeds. Nothing. So let's say I want to raise my voice. Breeds. And I want 100% of the mix. Breeds. Because I don't want any of my original voice. Otherwise, I'm going to be getting, harmony, right?
Breeds.
You'll see that just moving things breeds. A couple of semitones makes a big difference.
Breeds.
So it doesn't even sound like me anymore. Just whole step down.
Breeds.
Half step down.
Breeds.
Whole step.
Breeds.
Step and a half.
Breeds.
At some point,
Breeds.
it really starts to sound
Breeds.
and you'll start to hear digital artifacts. It'll sound not like a human being. It starts to sound processed.
Breeds.
So
Breeds. Breeds.
it doesn't even sound like me. I'll turn it off. Here's the original. Breeds. Here I am now.
Breeds.
I usually ask them to restrict themselves to about 1 to 3 semitones. That'll do it. Otherwise, you start to get weird digital artifacts. The kids can't really hear those distinctions too much, but here it is.
Breeds.
And there it is. That's how you can use the pitch shifter to change vocals so it doesn't sound like the student. And again, I prefer that it doesn't sound like a monster or chipmunk. Those are your choices.